All right, so hi everybody. Welcome to our very first webinar. I'm Samantha Watson. I'm the Executive Director of the SAMFund, and I am super excited about today's presentation. And thanks to all of you who are here to help us kick off this new program. So as you may already know, but just in case any of you are not familiar with what we do, the SAMFund is a nonprofit organization designed to help young adult survivors get back on their feet financially after cancer treatment. What you probably best know us for is our financial assistance program. We've awarded a total of $600,000 in grants and scholarships over the last 6 years. If there's anyone on the webinar today that is interested in our grants and scholarships program, we award our grants once per year. The application is available on our website in June. So following the webinar, if you're not already on our mailing list, you can email grants@thesamfund.org if you need more information or if you want to be added to the mailing list. We also have a program called the SAMFund Survivors Network, which is a series of informal events that we hold throughout the country to help members of the young adult survivor community connect. So if there's anyone on the call in Northern California, there's an event this Saturday at Effie's Restaurant and Bar. And for anyone in the New York area, there's an event at Brooklyn Bowl next Tuesday, March 15th. These events are always free. They're provided by the SAMFund. Appetizers are provided at the one at Brooklyn Bowl. Bowling shoes and lanes will be provided. And if you want any more info on either of those events, or if you're interested in hosting one in your area, just send an email to events@thesamfund.org. So that brings us to today, which is our newest program. We're really excited to be launching this webinar series called Moving Forward with Your Financial Health. And we're proud to be presenting it in partnership with Pfizer, as well as a network of some pretty amazing financial professionals. The webinars are designed specifically for young adults with a history of cancer who may find themselves struggling financially as a result of that. And it's really our hope that through these webinars you'll get the tools, you'll find the resources, and you'll get the support you need to keep on moving forward. So as young adult survivors, of which I am one as well, we've all put an incredible amount of time and energy into fighting for our physical health, so now it's time to channel the same energy into getting our financial health back in shape. So before we get started, I just wanted to do a few quick housekeeping things. In the email that you got from GoToMeeting confirming the webinar for today, as well as the emails you got from Michelle, you got a link to a pre-webinar survey. We also actually have it listed on our Facebook page. It's really everywhere you can look because we really, really want you to fill it out. Even if you do it immediately following the webinar, it's fine. None of the questions in that survey pertain to the webinar itself. We just ask some questions about your general financial situation. So all the information that we collect is anonymous. We don't even ask for your name. And we'll basically just use your answers to help us determine whether our webinars are effective. And ultimately, we want this program to be helpful to you. So we'll use your feedback to make sure we're continually improving. The second note is that you will each be getting a follow-up email tomorrow from Michelle Zietler, our program director. And if you could just take 2 minutes to complete the post-webinar survey, it would really help us out a lot. About 6 months from now, you'll get another email from us asking basically whether or not the webinar had any impact on your financial situation. 2 minutes to fill out the survey, so if you could just keep an eye out for that email and fill it out, we would greatly appreciate it. So as for the webinar itself, if you have any questions during the webinar, just type them into that little question pane on the right-hand side of your screen, and George will do his best to answer them. And at 2 times during the webinar, we'll be taking a few short polls. You'll see a little pop-up come up on your screen with a short question. And basically, they're just meant to help us decide on topics for future presentations. So they'll be related to what George is talking about. And we would just appreciate if you take a second to give us your answer. So for anyone that may have come on late, or if you know anyone who wanted to participate but couldn't because of the time or for any other reason, the webinar is being recorded and it'll be available on our website, which is www.thesamfund.org after this. So if you want to have access to the slides or any of the information that's provided here, it's yours. So without any further ado, I want to introduce today's presenter. George Padula is a certified financial planner and chartered financial analyst from Madeira Wealth Management right here in Boston. He has more than 20 years of experience in the financial industry, and he also works with people at Dana-Farber in a pretty cool partnership between Dana-Farber Cancer Institute and the Financial Planning Association of Massachusetts. He works with people both during and after cancer treatment to manage their daily finances and start talking about financial planning. So we consider ourselves really lucky to know him, and we're really proud to have him as our first presenter. So today on this webinar, he'll be talking about how to start to get yourself back on track financially after cancer. He has a lot of insight into how to get started, how to set short-term and longer-term financial goals. And throughout the presentation, he'll be giving you tools and resources to start working towards these goals. So ultimately, it's our hope that you will leave this webinar feeling a little bit more empowered, a little bit more in control, and ready to take control over your finances and start this process of improving your financial health. So now, George, it's over to you.
Great. Thank you, Sam. I appreciate it, and thank you, everyone, for taking the time today to attend here. I am going to get this started, and hopefully everyone can see this. And let me get my presentation going here. I'm very happy to be doing this today. I think the SAMFund is just an extraordinary organization. I've been very happy to be associated with it, and our firm is too. Today's what we're talking about. And when Sam came up to me and said, we'd like to do a webinar on how to regain financial health and regain control of financial lives, I thought it was a really great idea, because one of the things that I've been finding out from people and working through Dana-Farber and with our clients is so many people do not know how to start or where to start, or things are just overwhelming. And what I'd like to do today is really just start and focus on a couple of things. How do you make the decision to start? How do you make that financial recovery plan yours and yours alone? How do you create some budgeting tips and ideas? How do you manage your debt? From what we've seen, that medical debt, credit card debt, student loan debt, those are hugely important pieces of the puzzle. And knowing what to prioritize, knowing what can be managed is important in there. Credit, being able to look at short-term credit issues, how you can improve your credit, I think is important. And then, importantly, let's look at savings, because savings is so important. It's savings for today, saving for long-term. And what we're trying to get for you today, actionable strategies, resources, where you can find assistance on your own, and some solutions for you to get started. So a little bit about our firm. We're an independent investment manager. We have offices in Boston and New Jersey. We develop financial customized solutions and strategies for clients. We're very client-centered. We do it for individuals. We do it for nonprofit organizations. And we provide a really structured, disciplined approach throughout the whole financial planning and investment process. Some people don't know what a financial plan is, so what I'd like to do is just kind of walk you through what I mean by a financial plan. And a financial plan is really just a process. It's a process of providing comprehensive advice, assistance, with the sole purpose of meeting your financial needs and goals. It's designed, and really the webinar here and this whole series that the SAMFund is putting together, designed to help you identify and understand, prioritize your goals and your goals alone. Develop those strategies to work through those goals, and then, importantly, implementing them, getting them going, making sure that you're on track, updating them, and making sure that you're flexible with that. The one thing I'd like to say, too, throughout this, please feel free to jump in with questions. If there's a topic that you want me to focus on a little bit more, if there's something that I'm not clear on, feel free, put a question out there, and we'll get it answered, because if you have the question, 9 or 10 other people have the same question as well. The problem with financial planning and getting back on the road to financial health and recovery and moving forward for that is how do you do it? How do you know when to decide and what to do and how to do it? And it can be both logical and emotional. We talk about the left brain or the right brain. The left brain of people is very logical, practical, numbers oriented. You got to get it done. The emotional side is your right brain. It's more creative. It's emotional. There's a lot of history and baggage associated with that, and a lot of people tend to focus either on the left brain or the right brain. But you're taking an important piece out of that right now. You're making the step. Starting today, you've made the first step, and starting right now is a no-brainer. There's a really great website that I have found is a tremendous resource for both talking in practical terms about money and in conjunction with that health. It's a website called Her 2 Cents, HERTWOCENTS.com, Her2Cents.com. Very good website, practical advice, practical ideas, and not only about money and tips, but also incorporating health into that as well. And the woman who runs that is a professional journalist, and it's very good writing. And she brings in things from many of the major publications. So you've started to think about it. You know you need to do something. How do you do it? Well, getting started, I like to talk about it as your financial recovery plan. The biggest piece of advice I can give people: write down your goals. Identify your goals. Blank sheet of paper, write them down. Writing it down makes them realistic. It makes them accessible. It makes you committed to them, and it gives you a sense of purpose and empowerment. And it's almost as though it's a brainstorming idea. Allow yourself to think about how you need to reach your goals. You know, what do you want to do for those? Is it paying down debt? Is that the priority for you? Do you want to save and develop a plan to go on vacation? How are you going to buy a car? Do you need to buy a house? Things like that. Those are your goals. Make them as big and as bold and as every day as you need to be. What are your saving sources? Where are you going to find the money? Right? And there's no easy answers in this piece right here, but it's getting started. It's putting it on the piece of paper. Where do you have funds for your goals? And we're not trying to solve them right now. What we're trying to do is just trying to identify them. And this is part of the whole planning process. Whether the saving sources are from your own savings, whether they're from work, whether it's from cutting back on expenses, whether it's from selling something, what are the saving sources that you have? Family, friends, employer, that sort of thing. How long are your goals going to take? Do you have short-term goals? Do you have longer-term goals? And you really think about breaking them up. One of the things that I like to talk to people about is, you have a huge goal. Perhaps your goal is to reduce your medical debt. We all know how expensive medical costs are. There's absolutely no question on that. But, is there a way to break those medical costs down into something reasonable? And I think that's a great way to start. What's the time frame do you think about it? And while you're focused on a lot of the short term and a lot of the basic pieces that you can do over the next 3 to 6 or 12 months, I'd really like you to think about the longer term. Don't stop thinking about retirement. Don't stop thinking about the long-term goals, because it's never too late. And what you'll see, or never too early, and what you'll see in just a few slides right now are why it's so important to start early on whatever your goal is. A couple more resources for you to think about and to check out. Savingforcollege.com if you're in school right now. Some great tips for how to access financial aid if you're applying to college. What you can start to do to think about paying for college and tuition. Some great resources there. Going through the financial aid process is it's extraordinarily difficult. Again, there are some great resources and some support networks there. Another great resource, choosetosave.org. Excellent resources. Again, great tips, great ideas, things that are actionable and things that you can do both on your own and in conjunction with others. So you set your goals down. You've started your process for financial recovery. Big piece of that, what's your budget? There was a great piece in the Boston Globe on Sunday, a great section in the Money and Careers, Section G, a number of stories called Making Your Money Work. They had some great tools and how to balance budgets, how to pay off consumer debt. But again, just as you're writing down your goals, short and long term, your dreams and your visions and your realities, it's important to really get a handle on the nuts and bolts. And it does take work, but writing your budget down is, again, very important to do. It creates a sense of commitment. It creates a sense of moving forward, and it creates a sense of thinking about how you can do it in the right way. A couple of things in the budget. Think about fixed expenses versus discretionary expenses. Your fixed expenses are things like your rent, your student loans, your car loan payments, that sort of thing. Discretionary expenses, things like going out to dinner, things like movies, entertainment. Now, there is a big piece of that where you have to have some fun, and discretionary expenses can be a big part of fixed, because you should have some budget item in there for entertainment and fun every month. The other piece of this is, how to build savings into your budget. So you've got your income, and you know what you need to spend every month on food, clothing, shelter, medical expenses, that sort of stuff. How do you do it so you're trying to build in that savings? Again, build in a savings for yourself. I use ING Direct. ING is an FDIC insured bank. It's all online, and they offer high-interest savings and high-interest checking accounts. Very, very reasonable and an excellent way to start the savings process. Sam, if I could just jump in too, if there are any questions that you're getting from your listeners and folks, feel free to jump in with any questions.
All right, so far we have a quiet bunch here, but if you guys have any questions,
Okay.
Feel free to type them in, and
right.
We'll pass them along to George.
One of the things that we recommend too is starting to establish an emergency fund, and it takes time. We generally recommend having a cash account, and a great way to start that is really, again, starting to take a look at your budget, starting to take a look at what you're spending your money on and how you're spending it, and is there a way to just cut back $1 a day, $2 a day, and little things like that. It's when you look at the little expenses, the big expenses really tend to fall through from there. A couple of everyday solutions that people have started to incorporate, using technology. If you're spending a lot of money on your cable bill, you want to cut back, but you want to be able to watch some movies. Spend it, instead of spending $30, $40, $50 a month on extras and movies on cable, cut back on that piece of it and use Netflix online. It's $10 a month, and you have unlimited movies. It's fantastic. Simplifying your life is a great way to do that. I have two young daughters, one's age 14 and one's age 11, and I always try to tell them, simplify, simplify, simplify. The library, great resources for books, movies, and there are a whole host of other ideas out there. And again, the Boston Globe this past weekend, very timely articles on how to create budgeting and how to create that sense of that you're getting in control of your life. A really great tool that started up about 2 years ago. It's called Mint.com, and maybe you've heard of it. But it's an online personal finance and budgeting company. And what it does is you go into Mint.com and you upload or you register with them your bank account, your checking account, any savings accounts, your credit cards. And every day, every week, they will go in and look at what you're spending. They will help you work out a budget online, show you what you're spending your money on relative to others, and they do it in a very easy, very simple way. And it's very, very cost-effective as well. So I'd recommend Mint.com for anyone to take a look at, as well as all the other resources. As Sam had mentioned earlier, the slides will be available on the website, on the SAMFund website, And certainly my contact information is there, so if anyone has any questions on this after the call here, after the webinar, I'd be more than happy to help out and answer any questions that you have offline.
So George, we actually have two questions that both sort of go along the same lines of how to set up an emergency fund, how to start paying some of these fixed expenses when you don't have any money. If you're either, one question has to do with someone who may not have a job yet but needs to start paying back student loans. Actually, I can just give them to you one at a time. So that's the first one. If you have any thoughts on that, I mean, without a lot of income coming in and without anything in your, you know, on one side of the budget.
Yep.
Do you have any thoughts on that? I know maybe that was something that you come across in your work with Dana-Farber. If you have some thoughts as to how you might start looking at this budget when you got a lot of money that needs to be paid out and not a whole lot coming in.
Sure. Yeah. In fact, actually, it's a good lead into the next piece here, Sam. Debt management. You know, how do you think about debt? And it's a tough economy. It's getting better slowly but surely. But a lot of people are out of work. People have been out of work for a long time. And then when you add on to the fact that, you know, medical bills have just been overwhelming for so many of the people, it is difficult to know where to start and how to manage that debt. With student loans, one of the things is that you can negotiate with your student loan lenders. They're more flexible these days. If you don't have a job, if you don't have income, there are ways to negotiate payment plans for them. And in some cases, you know, some of that student loan interest can be tax deductible. And what I would suggest is that you contact your lenders and your servicers and let them know that what your income situation is like, your working situation is like. The big thing is don't ignore calls from your creditors. Don't ignore calls. If you can't pay, you know, if it looks like you can't pay, be proactive and make the call and try to set up a reduced payment plan or some sort of a deference there. So.
Thanks, George. There was actually one related question to that as well, which is whether you have any advice on where to start if there's more debt than income, but also if you don't even have any discretionary expenditures that might be able to be reduced. And, you know, I think that this slide actually that you're about to do will speak to that question really well, as to just sort of how to start prioritizing when you have so many bills that you don't know what to do with and you clearly can't pay them all. Where do you start? Which are the ones that are, you know, better to sort of pay right now, and which are the ones that maybe can wait a little bit?
Right. Yeah. I mean, debt management. It's as I wrote here. It's difficult, but it's not impossible. I look at it as in three different buckets. You have good debt, bad debt, and tolerable debt. The bad debt, obviously, but you know, for some people they get into it. It's credit card debt. And credit cards come with very high balances and very high interest rates, I should say. You know, the goal is to try to pay off your credit cards and utilize them as little as possible. There is good debt in terms of student loans, mortgages. Those are the things that you really need to prioritize first: your student loans and your mortgages, because they're the ones that, you know, that are really necessities. Your bad debt, your credit card debt. Those are things that you really have to take a proactive stance and negotiate with your credit card companies. You can get a secured credit card if you've been past due, you're late, and you have high balances. One of the things you can do is you can go to your credit card company and get a secured credit card. It's very low balance, they basically have a fund that you can borrow against, or not borrow against, but you put up the money ahead of time. So it creates some discipline there. The tolerable debts, things like car loans, medical debts, again, those are things that you can try to keep a priority on those first. That's what I would recommend. And again, if you're in a situation where you find that you are in over your head, utilize the negotiating and utilize your ability to work out a payment plan. two things I'd strongly recommend. You probably heard or be aware of. You probably heard advertisements in the radio. You've probably gotten things through the mail. Debt consolidators, where people and firms, generally nonprofits, offer to consolidate your debt, reduce your payments, pay off your debt very quickly. Be very, very aware of those organizations and how they operate, because if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. There's no easy way of getting around it, and in many cases, they're doing for you what you can do on your own. The other piece is that if you're in a situation where you are getting calls from debt collectors, there are fair debt collection practices that they have to follow. And the website that I provide through the Mass Attorney General's office has some very good rules about what debt collectors, what they have to follow, what the rules are that they have to follow. So don't feel pressured that just because someone calls you that you have to do something right away. There is a certain procedure and guideline that they have to follow. But it is difficult to know what to prioritize. And really, I think about it as a good debt, tolerable debt, and bad debt. To the extent that you can, really try to focus on the good debts first, because those are your long-term debts. Those are what's going to help you move forward. The credit card debt, it is difficult, to know what your discretionary income versus fixed income is. But even a couple of dollars a day, there's always ways that people, I think, can start to pull that out of their budget.
So
any other similar questions to that?
Yeah, there were actually two other questions that came in. One which was relevant to the last slide, and that was my fault for sort of pushing it forward to this one. But in talking about setting up an emergency fund and then talking about sort of starting to create this reserve so that you can start managing some of your expenses a little bit better, there was a question from someone about sort of how that works if it would count against you if you're currently receiving public assistance. And, I don't want to put you on the spot, and I don't know if this is something that you've dealt with in your work at Dana-Farber. If not, to the person who asked the question, we can track down resources and get them to you after the webinar. But, George, I wanted to put that to you in case you had any thoughts. Basically, the question is, how can you establish an emergency fund if it gets counted against you if you're receiving public assistance?
That's a good question, and I'd have to know more of the specific details on that, and we can track some information down on that. If you're on public assistance, disability or unemployment, unemployment is income, and it does not necessarily assets don't count on that. If you are on disability, Social Security disability, there is the ability to make a small amount of earnings and income, because the whole idea is that they want you to start to get back on the earnings track. So if that's the case, then your Social Security office can help you identify that a little bit more. Relevant to your situation. So.
Okay, and we can get more information. I think the person was specifically asking about receiving Medicaid and the amount of money that you have counting against that, and jeopardizing your coverage. So we actually do have a poll that has to do with medical debt and figuring out if that's something that people need to deal with, and we can certainly design a webinar around that as well. But that was specifically, I think, what the person was asking about.
Right. Yeah. That's Medicaid is its own beast, so to speak, and it's a difficult one to negotiate through or to navigate through, and I think you really have to look at it on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, and to the person who asked the question, you can feel free to email us either at michelle@thesamfund.org or sam@thesamfund.org, or you can contact George also, and we can try and help you work through that a little bit more. Yeah. And George, just before you go to the next slide, there's just one last question that I think is more about clarifying something. If you can maybe clarify what you meant by good debt being more longer term, because the person who asked the question wanted to know what if their medical debt is much greater than their student loans by up to 4 times as much or more. So why do you say that the good debt is long term? What do you mean by that?
Well, if good debt meaning that those are things that in the long run are going to help you build, going to help you build your lifestyle, your support system. You're creating if you want to buy a house, you need a mortgage. Having a mortgage is a good debt to have because you're building equity in your house or your condominium. Student loan debt being a good debt because ideally it's helping you improve your education, improve your income earning potential. Medical debt being that much more than student loan debt. Again, negotiate with the hospital providers, healthcare providers. It's extremely important to do that. And again, I think it's on a case-by-case basis on how to do that and how to negotiate that going forward. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, George.
No, I think one of the things is that when you establish a realistic payment structure for medical debt, it will end up helping you in the long run improve your credit, which will allow you to get lower interest mortgage when you can qualify for that, or if you qualify for that, lower interest on your credit cards, reduce the interest on your credit cards, and get better rates for your auto loans. So it all does tie in together, and I don't mean to dismiss one versus the other, but in terms of people thinking about how to manage their debt and how to improve their credit rating, the good debts being and what's important. Medical debt is important, as is being current on your mortgage and being current on student loans.
So this is actually a perfect opportunity to put up our first poll, and we're really just curious to know how many of you are dealing with medical debt, and for how many of you that is one of your most pressing concerns. So you should see a little pop-up on your screen right now that says, how interested would you be in a webinar that focused entirely on reducing medical debt? Because as I mentioned in the beginning, this is the first of our webinar series, and we're really excited to make this about you and to make it as helpful to you as possible. So you can just take a quick second and check whichever of the answers applies to you. We'll take it into consideration when we start designing the next one.
Sam, you tell me when you're ready.
All right, we're ready. Thanks,
okay.
everybody.
The next big piece here, we talk about debt and we talk about credit. There's something known as the FICO score, and you probably have heard about it. I won't spend a whole lot of time on this, but the FICO score is important. It basically tells you what your credit rating is. And it's a company called Fair Isaac, and they developed the FICO score. Employers can look at it. Your landlords can look at it. Your creditors can look at it. The biggest factor is your payment history, and second factor is the amount that you owe. People think that they need to have credit outstanding in order to improve their FICO score, but there's a lot of different things that are involved in it. Some things on your credit report may not be accurate. You are entitled to a copy of your credit report for free every year. There are 3 credit rating agencies, and you can go on to annualcreditreport.com and sign up with TransUnion, Experian, and the other credit reporting companies, and get your free credit report. You can look at that credit report, and if there are any issues, any situations on there which are inaccurate, you can report those to the credit rating agencies. You can assign a note to those, and they are obligated to put that in there. But it's important every year to get your credit report and to see what the companies are reporting about you and your payment habits, the amount of debt that you have outstanding. For example, what if you paid off your credit card, but the credit card company didn't report that? That's something that you want to put on there. Or if you're now current on your on some of your medical debts, but the company hasn't reported that, you want that out there. You want it that you're improving your credit, that you're getting back on track, and that you're able to do that. So it's important. Annualcreditreport.com, again, another great resource. To the extent that you can, I talk about bad debt, credit card debt. This slide here really, I think, is important to understand how it is the credit card debt really starts to skyrocket. If you've got an $8,000 balance on your credit card and you're paying $150 a month on that credit card and you have an 18% interest rate, it can take you up to 9 years to pay that off. And if you have a better credit rating, if you still have an $8,000 balance, it can take you at 12% about 6 years to pay it off. It's a long time. There's no question about it, which is why you really want to be able to pay as much off as quickly as you can. Pay your high credit cards as quickly as you can, and get that going. What I call credit card hopscotch. Be careful of that, and that's moving from one credit card company to another to take advantage of low rates. There are balance transfer fees, and many times it's a teaser rate where it's 0% for 6 months. Well, that's great, but if you're continuing to add to the credit on there, you'd end up getting yourself into a worse situation than you were before. And if you miss a payment on it, you not only owe on the balance remaining, but many times you owe on the balance that you started with as well. So be very, very careful of what I call credit card hopscotch. Again, annualcreditreport.com. If you are getting into a situation where you're getting calls from creditors, don't ignore them. That's probably the worst thing you can do. Don't ignore your creditors. Anytime you do get a call from a creditor or a debt collector, keep accurate notes. Ask them for details. Ask them for things in writing. Respond appropriately. There's no need to make a rash decision that can come back and hurt you in the long run. Again, the Massachusetts Attorney General's Office, and if you're around the country, every state's Attorney General's Office has information on what's fair for debt collection practices and consumer protection information. In Massachusetts, there is a free resource for legal assistance. The Massachusetts Bar Association holds every month a Dial a Lawyer helpline. It's every Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday afternoon from 5:30 to 7:30, and they also have legal referral lines. But if you dial in, ask them any question, whether it's debt-related, real estate-related, mortgage-related, you name it, anything having to do with legal. It's free, it's confidential, and the attorneys that are on the legal helpline are excellent. So 617-338-0610. Can't recommend it enough.
A couple quick questions, George.
Yep.
First one, are these last two resources that you gave specific to Massachusetts residents, or can anybody access those?
Anyone can access them? Yes. On the legal assistance line, the Dial a Lawyer line, they're mainly focused on Massachusetts law. So if you're from out of state, they may not know your specific law, but they could regulations regarding foreclosure, let's say in California or New York, but they could certainly direct you to the resources and be able to provide general advice. My guess would be is that the bar associations for most states have that. The Massachusetts Attorney General's information applies both federal and state. There are some state fair credit protection laws, but most of them are guided by the federal as well. So.
Gotcha, thanks. And the other question is about credit card debt and starting to negotiate some of those rates. And the question is, this person has a credit card that is closed so that she could lock it in at a fixed rate, and she's been paying on it slowly. So the question is, do you think that she could negotiate with them to move over the balances from other cards and pay all of them off at a lower rate? And if the answer is yes, how do you go about doing that negotiation? Who do you talk to? Who do you call? How do you get that conversation started?
Well, if she's already negotiated with the company to close her credit card and set up a payment plan, that would be the first that I'd contact them, because they're looking at the history of payment. Is the credit risk increasing or decreasing? And perhaps they would be willing to take on a balance transfer. You never know. The other thing is if there are, perhaps if they're unwilling to do that, call up the other credit card companies and see if they're willing to match the offer of the other credit card company that set up a lower interest rate. So.
Great.
Yep. Okay. So we talked a little bit about setting up a budget, setting up your goals, the issues surrounding debt and credit, some of the highlights of that. A few questions have come in. How do you save every day? Thomas Jefferson, and it sounds a little hokey here, but take care of the pennies and dollars will take care of themselves. It's right from Thomas Jefferson. The one tip that I do, and I mentioned, I always try to talk about, stories of my family. And I have, as I said, I have two daughters. I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old. And like most adolescents and teenagers, they love to spend. So what we did was we set up a vacation jar. And every day I come home and I throw some pennies, quarters, dimes, nickels into the vacation jar. And when that gets filled up, we empty it out, and we turn those into dollars, and we put it aside. So whether you set up a vacation jar, or in this case, a rainy day savings account, the change for your pockets makes a big difference. As you can see here, these are people are looking for vacation, they're looking for a new computer, money for New York City. $1 a day, $2 a day, 25 cents a day. Little things like that add up, and it's a great, easy way, very tangible way to start to start doing it. It's the old-fashioned piggy bank. Again, it sounds hokey, but I'm telling you, it works. And we have clients at all levels doing this, and it works. So, we talk about, so there's your rainy day fund. Let's put it into dollars and cents. How much can you save? How do you start? Where do you start? If you're working, highly encourage people to utilize your company's 401k. If you're making $30,000 a year, you can, and your company has a match, what does that really mean? Well, if you're making $30,000 a year and you can put away, let's say your goal is $150 a month. That's $17. $150 a month, $1,800 a year. How do you do that? Well, if you can commit to $900 a year, that's $17 a week. It's about $2.25 a day. If your employer has a match up to the 3%, for every dollar you put in up to that $900, they're going to put up a dollar for dollar. You're giving money away if you're not taking advantage of that. So you put up $900, they put up $900. There's your $1,800 a year. That's $150 a week. Start early and be consistent. And the table here shows, at different interest rates, how much you can accumulate over a period of time by starting early. So, for example, at age 25, if you start investing, putting away $17 a week, and your employer starts doing the same thing for a total of $35 a week, and you earn 5% up to age 65, that's 40 years, you'll end up with over $200,000. You get a better return, 7%, you're up to $360,000. And the overall that you put in there is $72,000 over those 40 years. If you wait until you're age 45, and I'm 45 right now, retirement is still a long ways away for me, and it is for a lot of other people. If you invest at 7% and you haven't started until age 45, instead of $360,000, you're only going to get $73,000. So start early. The power of compounding, $2.25 a day. It's a great way to start. And I know it sounds like a lot for some people. If you're out of a job, you have a lot of debt, you have a lot of little things, but the way you eat an elephant is one bite at a time. First bite is a penny a day, $1 a day. There's no other way to start. Again, retirement is closer than you think. Participate in your employer's 401k plan. Utilize the company match. It's free money. Great resource, esplanner.com. It's run by a professor over at Boston University, and I think it's about $40 a year to get yourself started on a longer-term financial plan goal, if that's something that you want to look at. And again, just looking at it, how much you can invest. If you start early, and starting early versus starting later, and the amount of money that you can accumulate, I think is important to understand.
George, if I can just add one thought before you go on to the investing piece, because I know a lot of people on the call are really struggling with sort of the day-to-day expenses, and starting to think about putting away a certain amount of money per year can be overwhelming. But I just want to reiterate one point that you made, which is that whatever people can do right now is going to have huge payoffs in the long run, and even if it's a tiny amount of money, I think just starting to focus on the now and starting to get a handle on things and just start heading in the right direction is going to pay off a lot more than waiting until you can contribute $3,000 a year or $1,500 a year. I imagine, and hopefully you can back me up on this, that whatever people can do right now, even if it's a minimal amount, still is going to have a big benefit.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll go right back to think about your treatment protocol. And I've worked with patients at Dana-Farber on a pro bono basis, helping them with their financial planning aspects of their lives. I've had family members going through cancer, friends going through cancer. I know it's tough. There's no question about it. And you go through your protocol, you start to look at it, and you think, boy, this is never going to end. But what you do is you take it one step at a time, one treatment at a time, step by step. You prioritize your goals. And I go right back to the first couple of slides. Write your goals down. Think about your dreams. Think about what you want to do realistically. And then set up one by one, what are the couple of things that I want to try to accomplish over the next 2 weeks, over the next 2 months, over the next 2 years. And once you start to write those down, and once you start to get that going, use your support network. Use some of the resources that I've given you. Ask people how they're doing it. Talk to the people that are closest to you, and I've got a couple other slides coming up to talk about that. But it can be manageable, and again, I think the Boston Globe had a couple of things this weekend, very timely. But you don't have to do it all at once. Is a big part of it. Take one thing and then work on that. Take another thing and work on that. And a big piece of it is trying to in the situation that people are in is trying to manage that debt and trying to manage that those expenses, and that is a big piece of it. But it won't go away if you ignore it. It'll only get worse, and it's true in treatment and it's true in finance. A couple of quick things on investing, and I won't spend a whole lot of time on this. But you can start to invest. How do you invest? Go on to Fidelity and Schwab. Have some great resources. Vanguard as well. You can set up. There are some all-in-one funds, retirement date funds, target date funds, index funds. A couple of big things here. Diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Be aware of the risks that you're taking. Don't try to reach for returns. And again, take it step by step. The big piece is really starting to save dollar for dollar in a savings account, utilizing, if you have a 401k through your company, utilizing that. That's probably your best first resource.
We actually have another quick poll.
Sure.
Just to sort of gauge, when we did the needs assessment last year, it seemed like investing or even an intro to investing was one of the most commonly requested topics. And so for the people on this call, we're curious to know, is that something that you might want to learn more about in a future SAMFund webinar? So here comes the poll. Maybe. Here it comes. Get ready. There it is. How interested would you be in a webinar that focused on investing? So things like stocks, bonds, learning more about the tips that George just gave. If you can just take a second and let us know, we'd appreciate it. All right, let's keep it going. So, okay. George, back to you.
We're just about at the end here. So we've talked a lot about the goals, how to set up your financial recovery plan, how to manage some budgeting issues, look at debt, the importance of credit. So where else do you turn? Well, again, seek advice from those that you trust, just as you did in your treatment protocols. Think about who it is in your network that you can turn to. The SAMFund is just a fantastic organization that can help with that through its grants. There are other resources that are available out there. People seek advice all the time on family health, home, giving, financial lifestyle. Use your network, use your community, use those strategies for support. Focus on going forward. Don't lament on what's happened in the past, and really try to focus on solutions. And if you're trying to work through things like managing your debt, trying to negotiate debt, trying to negotiate payment plans, really think about and offer solutions going forward. And that's really going to be your biggest benefit. If you do need professional help on a financial basis, there are some resources to think about. A couple of there are financial planners out there doing it on both a pro bono basis, a very cost-effective basis. GarrettPlanning.org, the NAPFA, National Association of Personal Financial Advisors. A couple of books that I find are very helpful. The Morningstar 30-Minute Money Solutions especially, very, very good. Christine Benz does a great job on that. So, this has been enjoyable for me to be involved with the SAMFund, and hopefully we've been able to give you some tools, some tips, some ideas on how to move forward, how to improve your financial lives, get you onto the road for financial health and recovery. And again, this webinar will be on the website there, I believe, Sam. And my contact information is there. So if anyone ever has any questions, feel free to give me a call, send me an email. If you identify yourself that you're on the webinar, I'd be more than happy to help out. Love to do it. And if there are any other questions that we can answer for you, fire away. I'm here.
Well, I want to thank you, George. I know we're getting close to that 5 o'clock mark, so I think we're going to have to end it soon. If anyone has follow-up questions, you can feel free to email any of us. I just wanted to make one last point here, and that is at the SAMFund, we know that being faced with big stacks of bills and the aftermath of going through cancer is overwhelming. We hear it from thousands of people every year. Unfortunately, it's one of the most common experiences for young adults who have gone through cancer treatment. And we also know that it can be paralyzing, and that sometimes looking at a stack of bills is scarier than actually opening them. And so I think one of the take-home messages from your presentation, George, is to inform yourself and to really get yourself in tune with what's going on. Take a look at your credit report, even if you're cringing at the thought of what it's going to show you. Take a hard look at your budget there may not be any wiggle room in there, but there might be. And so really just take one step. Start to empower yourself. You can do this. We are here to support you. George is here to help. And together, hopefully, we can make really great things happen. So thank you guys for participating. It is 5 o'clock on the nose, so the timing is great. Check back sometime in the next week or two at our website, www.thesamfund.org, for a downloadable copy of the webinar. And if you have any ideas for future topics or have any other feedback about today's webinar, feel free to shoot us an email at webinars@thesamfund.org. So on behalf of everyone, George, I just really want to thank you for giving us your time and sharing your expertise. And we look forward to seeing everybody at the next one.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Sam and Michelle and everyone for listening today. I do appreciate it. And again, I'll reiterate, if there's anything I can do to help, feel free to let me know.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.